Christianity, folks, I want to give you a brief introduction to the course on which you're going to be embarking with fellow students, to the main textbooks we're going to be using, as well as to some of the main ideas which you're going to be encountering. We hope you're excited about it. The history of Christianity grows out of the history of ancient Judaism, and in particular is grounded on the Hebrew Scriptures, which we call the Old Testament. It reaches ahead, so to speak, with the first century Jewish prophet Jesus of Nazareth, whose historical life and career is recorded in particular in 4 early Christian Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And Jesus' earliest followers claimed that he not only had a miraculous kingdom of God establishing ministry, but that he was crucified under Pontius Pilate, he was buried, he was raised from the dead, he was enthroned in heaven as Lord, he poured out God's eschatological spirit. And it was incumbent upon the early Christian communities not only to embody and to celebrate this fact of Jesus' victory, but also to proclaim it to the world. The early Christian movement spread rapidly all over the world, not only in the first few centuries, eventually becoming the major religion of the Roman Empire, but also all through the medieval period, the Renaissance, the Reformation, and on, becoming the world's largest religion in all of its variegated forms, such that studying the history of Christianity, whatever one's religious or spiritual inclinations, gives one profound, necessary, crucial insight into why the world is the way that it is, why certain philosophical, historical, theological movements have happened, political movements have happened, why people think what they think, and it just gives one an overall sense of the to's and fro's of history. Christianity, of course, has influenced been influenced by all sorts of political facts, all sorts of philosophical movements, scientific discoveries, etc., such that if one wants to understand the world in which we're living, in the world in which we will be living, the world in which one wants to contribute and flourish, it is incumbent upon such a person to get at least a basic grasp of the history of Christianity. These are the main course texts we're going to be using. Bruce Shelley's Church History in Plain Language, which is a wonderful, kind of chunky, but wonderful introduction to the whole history of Christianity, all to the present. You'll also be working with Alistair McGrath's Historical Theology, the 2nd edition here, which is a rather brief but dense and informative introduction to some of the great ideas of the Christian faith and how those were shaped by political, historical, and philosophical movements of the various days in which they were inculcated, but also responded to, reacted to, and challenged those historical, political, and philosophical ideas. I hope that you find this course and its contents not only fascinating, but challenging, grounding, orientating, such that you better not only understand yourself, but also the complex world in which we live. All the absolute best.